What is up, Internet? Brian Hurst coming to you from my home office for the very first edition of the Brian Hurst Show. Today, we're going to be talking about when is it better to buy and when is it better to rent? Or is there ever a time that you should rent? Today on the Brian Hurst Show. Well, is there a good time that you should rent a house rather than buy a house? I am, after all, a real estate broker, and you would sounds a little counterintuitive. And when is it that you would rather rent or buy? True story. Back in 2006, my mother, who at the time was at the apex of her real estate career, saw some things happening in the market that caused her to go to my dad and plead with him to sell their house on Fairway here in Spring Valley Lake and rent. And my dad balked at that idea. And sure enough, their house went from being worth $350,000 all the way down to being worth $150,000. The good news is on that is they held on to the asset and it climbed back up and regained its worth. So when is it that you should rent rather than buying? Well, to understand the answer to that question, there's a couple of things we need to take a look at in terms of the value of home ownership. So the first thing is that home ownership creates wealth over the long haul by building equity. And so there's a couple of key words that I'd like you to underline there: the word equity and the word long haul, or the words long haul, the phrase long haul. So when you're purchasing a home, you're playing the long game. When you're renting a home, you're playing the short game. Now, most leases for a house last 1 year. And so when should you rent rather than buy is if you're only standing to stay in the house for 1 year or less. Anything longer than 1 year, you're taking some risk and you're missing the opportunity to build wealth over the long haul. So this isn't something that we jump into and hope that we get rich quick. That's not what home ownership's about. Home ownership is about creating wealth over the long haul by building equity. You build zero equity in your house if you're renting it. And walking through people who are debating whether it's time to buy, I'll ask them the question, how long have you been in your house? They said, we've been there 7 years, and they pay, say, $1,200 a month in rent. That would be around what, 13,000 or a little more than that, 13,400 in rent every year. You do that for 10 years, that's $130,000, $134,000 that you put into somebody else's pocket. Whereas if you were owning the home, a good portion of that would go to reduce a principal balance that you'd get back. The second thing is that home ownership provides security for you and your family. So remember the 1 year lease thing. The 1 year lease is after the 1 year lease is over, the homeowner can send you a 30-day notice to vacate. If it's longer than 1 year, a 60-day notice to vacate. And I've got tons of clients on both sides, both people who own rental properties who need to get somebody to move out, and people who are renting properties that they've been served a notice and they have nowhere to go. And so if you own your home, nobody can come tell you, hey, it's time for you to go. So it creates security for your family. You're not facing a deadline where you could potentially be asked to move. And nobody likes to move. I hate moving almost as much as anybody in the world. So warming up in the bullpen, we have a special guest, special person. She's going to be here in just a minute, Samantha Zumwalt. We're going to bring her in. But before that, I want to leave you with this thought. When should you buy a car and when should you rent a car? Sometimes it makes sense to rent a car. When you're traveling, you only need it for a day or maybe a week. You're not trying to build equity in an asset. You're just needing the use of the vehicle for a short period of time, and then you turn it back in. but it wouldn't make sense to rent a car year after year after year. Hope that makes sense. So without any further ado, please welcome to the show our special guest, Samantha Zumwalt from PRMG. What is up, Samantha?
Hi, Brian. Happy Tuesday.
What's going on?
Not much.
Hey, this is our second time doing this.
Yes, it is. It's like Groundhog Day
True
today.
story. We tried doing this yesterday. We did the whole show. It was a beautiful show. We had a great interviews, tons of great content, and we didn't record it. But I'm seeing up there in the corner that we're live.
Yes.
So here we are. And Samantha, you and I have known each other for a while. We've worked together for a while, and you're one of my favorite people. And you're going to be a benefit to anybody that watches this. But why don't we start? Tell us a little bit about yourself. As I understand, you actually grew up here in the high desert.
I am native to the high desert, a lifer, born over in Apple Valley at St. Mary's. So we're all my kids and my brothers.
That's incredible.
I know, right?
So you're the definition of an OG.
Yes, I am a definition of an OG for sure. And my mom was an import from Glendora. So first generation OG up here for my family.
And what about dad?
My dad is from Iowa, and he was stationed out here at George Air Force Base after Vietnam. He wanted to end up in South Carolina, but he got Adelanto instead.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay,
Yeah.
So did he retire?
He did. He was in for 5 years, and then got hired on with Conco Construction here. Stayed here and opened a commercial curb and gutter company, and worked here for about 35 years till he retired out of that. And then moved.
So you've seen the dramatic changes
Yes.
in the community over the years.
Yes, correct.
Some good, some not so good.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and tell us about how long you've been in our crazy business.
I have been in this crazy industry since 2000. Where I started at Chicago Title with Bobby Tarango was one of my first bosses. He hired me over there for customer service. And then they roped me into escrow where I learned the good, bad, and the ugly of real estate. And in 2003, I decided that I wanted to become a lender because I think that there's more opportunity in helping homeowners and doing a good job at it versus all the bad lenders I got to see in the business. And that's what spurred me to my journey. And that's where I am today.
So, and you have a real estate license.
Yes, I do.
So if you wanted to come over to First Team and sell real estate, you could do that if you wanted to.
Yes, I don't want to.
No? Okay.
But I could. Yes.
But you said, I think you told me they don't require that anymore. You just
No, they don't. When we first had to quote rate in the early 2000s, we had to have a real estate license. So that's why I've had it and I've just kept it up because it was kind of like your first big thing that you got, so some people get big degrees. I got my real estate license, so I'm going to keep it.
Nice. Well, you've certainly been highly successful, and you were in the escrow business there for a minute, huh?
Yep.
And you decided you didn't want to do that.
No, I broke Debbie's heart when I left her, Debbie Tarango. But I was like, girl, I got to go on the other side.
You would have been a great escrow officer.
Yes.
And for that matter, you'd be a great realtor if that's what you chose to do.
Maybe.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the profile of your customers, because most of the time, really, they're coming to you by referral from the agents.
Correct.
So in a way, even though technically the borrower is your client, functionally the agents are your clients.
Absolutely. My referral partners, my business partners, agents are definitely my customers as well. And that's 85% of my business is all referral. So that is always a blessing and something that you should be thankful for and focus on. But most of our borrowers that we help up here, since it still is a very affordable community, is first-time home buyers. And that's why we have a lot of programs to help them with down payment assistance. We definitely do way more of a FHA borrower with minimal down. And then we do have move up buyers as well. But I would say that generally, a lot of my business is an expertise in first time home buyers for sure.
Okay. So, and just for the viewers to give, the purpose of this show is to help give some of the inside baseball, how
Right.
all of the nuts and bolts and how things work, to educate and inform people and help them understand how the real estate market works. But the way it usually, at least in our back and forth, it goes. I think over the years we've closed dozens, if not hundreds, of deals together. I can only remember one time that the borrower came to you and then you sent them to me. Almost always it's the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would come seek financial advice before they start wasting realtors' times when they don't qualify. But you guys get them first, and then they come back to me, and then I send them back to you.
Well, and I tell people all the time, if you're thinking about buying a house, the first thing you need to do is talk to a good agent.
Right.
Underscore the word good on there, because there's just like, in the lending game, there's tons of people that whatever. And then when they come to me and they say, we're thinking about buying a house and this is kind of what we're looking for, I will ask them the question. I've got some scripts memorized. I'll say, okay, do you live in the area now? Yes, we do. Do you own or rent? We rent. Are you ready to stop renting and start owning? Wonderful. Do you have a particular neighborhood? What are you thinking about? And then this is the question that really, at least for me, I gain insight into where they are. I'll say, are you thinking about using an FHA loan? Because
Right.
again, that's the one that's most common up here, right? And we'll have you on another time to explain all the different kinds of loans and what they mean and how they work. If they say yes to that question, I know that they've done a little bit of homework. If they say, well, we're not sure, and we're really just trying to figure that out, then I know they don't know what they're doing. And maybe for me anyway, more importantly, they've not yet started working with a lender, because anytime a borrower brings me their own lender, it's an away game now, right? Instead of a home game. I want them to use my lender. So once I gather all that information, then I'll send you a text that says, this is Johnny and Susie. This is what they're looking for. Can you please reach out? Now we have a triangulation of communication going on. So talk to me about the demographic and describe who are these people, especially in our market, and what they look like.
Well, normally, especially if we're talking about how the referrals are coming in, a lot of times it's probably one of your clients' kids or a family member that's being referred back to you that comes over to me, to where we get them in to the situation to be able to prepare them for purchasing their first home. Most of the time we're able to retain those people and get them into their next homes, investment properties, and everything like that. But the demographic of those first borrowers that are coming in are definitely the ones that are looking for sellers concessions to help out with closing costs. They may be getting a gift from a family member for their down payment, or they're looking for down payment assistance. But in all aspects of that, we can definitely help them. And that's normally the 90% of the buyers that we're working with right now.
And so maybe perhaps to dispel the notion that you've got to have some kind of incredible amount of flex to purchase a home, most of our home buyers, they are either first time to the market or first time in a long time.
Yes,
And
correct.
they're not bringing with them a 20% down payment and an 800 FICO score.
Right.
So most of them are renting.
Yes, correct.
And Samantha, you and we touched on this yesterday. It bears repeating. And there is a time to rent.
Yeah, there is.
And when is that time in your mind?
I feel like when you're first moving out of your parents' home, it's kind of like your audition into adulthood. It's going to teach you how to budget for your monthly housing, understand how to pay your utilities, maintenance, that's going to have to happen on your home that you are renting. But it really shouldn't be long term, especially if you're getting to a spot where you're going to be staying in one place or building a family or whatnot. you're definitely going to want to take advantage of that tax benefit of actually purchasing a home versus paying another landlord's mortgage payment for them. At least that way you're going to benefit from it and be able to start building your own wealth through equity and something that you own or an asset that will be performing for you.
So, a little bit on the tax benefit, which is not something that I, brought up at all in my opening monologue. What exactly is the tax benefit?
So you are able to write off the interest that you pay on your loans, which on your mortgage, which in essence, and a higher rate market actually could pose better for you because it's a bigger tax advantage versus if you were lucky enough to get down to the 2.875 in the 20s, you don't have a lot of interest you're able to write off. You can also write off a portion of your property taxes, mortgage insurance in certain instances, any kind of certain repairs on investment properties, but definitely that tax benefit that you can get, because as we all know, everybody needs a break somehow, is a major for you. If you're not, you can't write off rent. You're paying 100% interest and you cannot write it off.
Oh, talk about that 100% interest.
Well, because of the fact, even today, if you're looking at a 6% interest rate and you're thinking that's too high to own your own home, and that may be a couple $100 more than the rent that you're paying. But the thing is, you're paying 100% interest on that rent to that landlord that gets to reap that benefit from you renting from them. Whereas your payment might go up if you were to purchase, but at least you're able to write that off and take that deduction back where you can't when you're renting at all.
Right. So back to the tax benefits. If your payment's $2,500 and 900 of that is going toward interest. Does that sound about right?
That sounds accurate. Yes.
Okay. And over the course of a year, that would be what, $10,600?
Yeah.
$10,800.
Yes.
You can then deduct that $10,800 from your tax bill.
Correct.
So, it probably would never spill into a credit, like where you get a tax credit.
Right. Yeah.
So depending on where you are in your income taxes, but everybody has to pay income taxes, particularly
Correct.
if you're working. For somebody who's self-employed, this is especially a benefit.
Oh, for sure.
But taking $10,800 off your federal income taxes is, that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
And if you kind of do the math and you're saying, so one of the things I monitor in predicting where the market's going, the crystal ball, is, the chief thing is the laws of supply and demand. So you go back to 2007, and this is a whole nother video, but we had over 4,000 homes listed for sale at some point in 2007. That's when the whole thing's getting ready to sink like a stone because you're outpacing demand by a lot.
Correct.
And that's when the pricing is going to soften. I don't know. Let me ask you this. Have you had anybody say something to you over the last 10 years? I'm just going to wait until the market crashes before I buy.
All the time.
And I laugh at them. I say, oh, who told you the market's going to crash? And they'll say something like, well, it always has. It always has. Well, a couple of things. If you take a look at the trajectory of the housing market here in Southern California over, say, 50 years, it's gone up and then it comes down and then it goes up. When it goes up, it goes up past where it was before.
Yes, yes, exactly. We're not going to go back to 2009 where you can get a mortgage or a house for 85,000 up here. It's not going to happen.
No. Well, and that was historic, right? 2008, that recession was historic.
Yes.
It's one of two in the last 100 years, I think, where the house prices softened during the recession. During all the other recessions, the houses increased in value.
Correct.
Interesting to know, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it would be foolish to, quote, wait Oh, I
purchasing.
remember. I remember my thought here. I monitor not only the laws of supply and demand, but what people are paying in rent.
Hmm. The rents are high.
The rents are high. Now, if we see rents, there's this plethora of homes available, and you can go get a nice house for $1,000 a month. Batten down the hatches, man, because
Oh, for
people,
sure.
yeah, because people make their decisions based on cash flow.
Yep. Hmm.
So that if they're in a $2,700 or $2,800 mortgage, and they say they can rent the same house for $1,000, you're going to see kind of that buy and bail,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
People just
And
live
that's
in the
what was
house.
that's what happened last time. People were seeing, their house was worth what they owed $400,000 on their house. They saw a house that was 150,000 that was way nicer than their house that they overbought on. They just walked away. They just
Mhm.
walked away.
So in the financial metrics of renting versus owning, we've covered it a little bit already. Is there anything you want to add to what that looks like, particularly if it's longer than 1 year? So if you go to 24, 36, 48 months of renting, what that looks like against owning your house.
Well, I mean, just like we're talking about that. So if you're paying $10,000 a year in interest, not only that, you're also paying into your principal. So as time goes on and your equity is building in your own home that you own, you get to reap the benefit of that as far as having a paid for asset, or if you need to leverage that equity in that and pull some of that cash out to invest in something else. But when you're just paying rent and it's 2 years later and you've given somebody else, you know, uh, $24,000 just to stay in their property, you could have doubled that with a home that you would have owned.
Right. And, at some point, you're going to wake up and be 50 or 60 years old.
Hmm.
And you're going to look back and say, doggone it, I've been renting this whole time. And you just run the numbers and how much money. So the beauty of owning a home, because everybody has living expenses,
Correct.
except for homeless people, I guess.
They might have some expenses. I don't
I don't
know.
know. Maybe they're paying, they're probably paying somebody something to stay
Don't they
somewhere.
for overnight protection? I don't
I
know.
don't
You
know.
never know.
Yeah, maybe. But everybody has living expenses. It's our most basic human need is housing.
Yeah,
So
for
the
sure.
beauty of owning your home is you parlay your monthly housing expense into building. The term you used yesterday was generational wealth.
Correct.
Generational wealth. So again, we're playing the long game. We're thinking about not, you know, two
Get rich quick
years.
schemes.
Say what?
Get rich quick schemes.
Yeah. Well, and so even if think about the people that bought a house in 2005, 2006. Can you believe that was what 18 years ago now?
Yeah, I can.
And they'll say, we bought at the exact wrong time.
Right.
But if that person that bought that house in 2005 and they paid at that time, I think our median sale price in the desert was $350,000.
Right.
And they've stayed in the house now over 18 years. And through an amortization where every month that level payment, and let's say it was $2,000,
Correct.
with each month you're paying more and more and more as a percentage of that payment on the principal.
Yep.
So by this time in year 18, you're paying probably more in principal than interest.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And at this point you would owe what? 150,000,
Probably. Yep.
175,000 on the house. And yeah, the value of that home went from 350 to 125. But now our median sale price in the desert is
450.
410.
Oh, 410. Yeah. I mean, it does come back. It's the long game for sure.
And you owe 175.
Hmm.
So what if you had jumped ship and rented that whole time?
That would not have made sense.
Well, I mean, by my math, that's what $225,000 or $235,000 that you failed to accumulate in generational wealth.
Yes. Correct.
Okay. Sam, you've been awesome. Couple more questions for you. What do you find most rewarding in your job?
I really truly love seeing the excitement of first-time home buyers getting to make their first biggest purchase and being a part of that, and educating them on how to take this and parlay it into their next purchase after that. It's truly rewarding just being a part of that process.
hmm Do you have a, you don't need to name names, but do you have a special, somebody that stands out to you, a story where you're like, wow.
Yeah, I have quite a few. I really do. And I still have a lot of my clients from loans I did in 2003 and 4 that I still talk to and I still help today.
One of our clients that sold their house over in Apple Valley, cute little house on a corner, but it was like 60 years old, and they had
Yes.
a growing family,
Yes.
and they had, they bought during the trough of the market, and so they had built up a lot of equity, and they came to us by referral
Mhm.
of another client. They sold that little house and bought this beautiful home up on the hill in Spring Valley Lake with a view. I mean, beautiful house. And it was about, what, 2 years ago, I think.
Yes.
And I was texting back and forth with her yesterday, and she said, "Man, if it were not for you, we would have never done this. We're so grateful. We look back and say, wow, that ever the right decision?" And those are the
Mhm.
rewarding stories,
Yeah,
right?
we
When
had
you
to go
make
to
a
battle
difference.
on that one a little bit too.
Say it again.
We had to go to battle on that one a little bit too.
Yeah, that was one of the hard ones for sure. So one of the things that we do, we joke about that our job, if you were to describe it in 2 words, is babysitting adults.
Yes.
I got that from you.
Yes.
And you post every day on your Instagram and on your Facebook. There's Samantha's contact information scrolling on the screen there. Kind of your daily motivation. And I remarked, it's like, "Hey man, I see that. I know I gotta go. Like, let's go." And you told me, "Hey man, I'm doing that for me."
Yeah. I love to
I
share
kick
with all of
myself.
you guys, but just know that I'm not judging anybody. It's just get myself moving.
And so I guess the encouragement, and sometimes we have to, and there are clients who test our patience.
Oh, for sure.
One
And
in
we're I'm
particular.
sure I'm sure I test their patience.
No, not you, Sam. But there are times where we have to kind of have those conversations of, "Hey, let's go, man. You can't, you know, woe is me, and it's never going to happen for us, and you got to take this thing and make it happen,
Right.
because it's not going to happen on accident."
No, some things are easy and some things are not, but it's always worth working for it and getting to the finish line.
Okay. So, for the viewer that may be thinking they're renting right now and they're like, "You know what? Now maybe isn't my time of renting is over, and it's time for me to venture into home ownership." And they're like, "Yeah, but I don't have very much money and my credit's not all that great." To them, you would say what?
I would say pull the Band-Aid, apply for a mortgage, see how we're going to get you into a position to be able to purchase. It may not be tomorrow, but it also could be sooner than next year. You just never know. But you might as well just start making the plan, make the goal, follow the steps, do the things.
And that's what talking to you and applying for the mortgage does, is it gives the roadmap
Right.
on how to get from where we are into the day that Brian hands them keys,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then you send them a, I don't know, Starbucks gift card, or I don't know, what do you
Yeah.
send them?
I, I do give out a lot of coffee.
All right, Sam. Any last word before we let you go?
Just make it a great week, everybody, and let us know if you need to and help in getting on that path to buy a home. We're here to
There
help.
she is, everybody. Samantha Zumwalt, best in the business. Call her, and let's get you into your house. There is a time to rent, but not probably more than 1 year.
For sure.
Sam, have a wonderful Tuesday.
You
We'll talk to you again
too.
soon.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So there she is. She's just a fabulous loan officer, and we're anxious to help you. With each week that we do the Brian Hirsch Show, we're going to give you a weekly market update. But before we do that, I would like for you to remember to like, share, and subscribe to all of you that have been clamoring for me to get out there and provide content and become an influencer in this space. I need you to help me like, share, and subscribe, and so that we can build up an audience for this channel. All right, let's look at the market update. This is as of yesterday, January 16th. In the last 30 days, we've sold 230 homes. To give you a benchmark on where we are, our normal absorption rate, and that's what this number is, an absorption rate meaning the rate at which the market is absorbing homes. We sell about 6,000 homes a year, between 5,000 and 6,000 homes a year normally in our market. So that would be an average of about 500 homes per month. So for us to have only sold 230 homes in the last 30 days, you can see that we've had a slow month, even for the holidays. So, I mean, it's always slow this time of year, but 350 to 400 homes is kind of the norm. And you can tell we're off by about 50% of that. So definitely a slow month. And when you look at the homes in escrow, 344 homes that are pending, what we like to see there is 2 months worth of supply. So when things were booming, and I looked it up last year at this time, we had 1,000 homes in escrow, and we had sold around 500 homes, even in the slow time of the year. So even at 230 homes, 460 would be 2 months of supply. In escrow, we only have 344. So things have really slowed down, in part because the rates back in November were around 7%. So that really curtailed demand. Actively listed for sale, 991. So the reason pricing has not plummeted dramatically, we're down a little bit from our peak, which is about 6 months ago, but is because of the low inventory. So we have a very strange market condition where we have low demand juxtaposed against low supply. The low supply is a good thing in some ways, because it's that bulwark against a dramatic price decrease. And the median sale price right now is $410,000, that was the last 30 days sold there, $410,000. That price would be a lot lower if we had kind of a normal supply of homes, which would be about 2,000. And current interest rate, if you got kind of average credit, average assets, average income, it's going to be somewhere between 5.5 to 5.75. And if the rates stay around 5.75, that the housing market's going to be okay this year. All right. So thank you for joining us for our very first episode of the Brian Hirsch Show. We're going to be coming to you weekly on Mondays. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful week. And we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.